Decameron, also known as the Decameron, is an Italian comedy movie based on the 14th century writings of Boccaccio. It consists of 9 short stories that deal with all kinds of things but also contains plenty of sex, as, apparently, sex was considered comedic in the Middle Ages. The 9 stories are: a young Sicilian is swindled twice, but ends up rich. Then a man poses as a deaf mute in a convent of curious nuns and has a good time. Next, a woman must hide her lover when her husband comes home early, followed by a scoundrel who fools a priest on his deathbed. Furthermore, 3 brothers take revenge on their sister's lover, after which we get a story about a young girl sleeping on the roof to meet her boyfriend at night. The second to last story is about a group of painters waiting for inspiration. Then a crafty priest attempts to seduce his friend's wife, and finally 2 friends make a pact to find out what happens after death. All of these stories feature normal people without makeup and medieval garb, dirty as you would expect. Not every single story has sex, time and boobies, but it's clear that this all is intended as a comedy. The people act ridiculous and silly, which works well with the dumb peasants and dumb disgusting noblemen and priests that appear in the stories. Make it a little bit more comedic and you'd have a movie filled with sketches, but this flick is much more coherent than an episode of SNL or movies such as Amazon Women on the Moon or Monty Python's Meaning of Life, which is normal since this was written in 1353. It's a novel thing to see and experience, and to realize that people have always been funny. Well, most of the time, that is. Check that. The Wishmaster was a 90s movie that kind of rekindled the horror genre and its practical effects, introducing a new Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees in the form of an evil djinn. Being caught in a ruby for centuries, he is set free and wishes to fulfill the prophecy by having the person who set him free make 3 wishes which will free all jinn and bring hell to earth. In the meantime, our jinn, played by expressive Andrew Divoff, is all too eager to grant other people wishes, which leads to their unfortunate and often original deaths. The Wishmaster is a great horror film with a novel idea and a cool villain. Not every wish turns death trap is logical, but at least it's entertaining. Andrew Divoff is over the top in his acting and has a constant sense of evil looming over him. It's a little bit too much at times, but it fits the character very well. There's plenty of prosthetics and practical effects, and that's a blessing. If you like Freddy Krueger and old 80s horror movies, this one is one you need to check out. Smash that. Wishmaster 2 brings back Andrew Divoff as the evil djinn after his plans were foiled in the first movie. This time he finds a new victim to fulfill his prophecy, and even more people wish themselves to death in the most creative and often hilarious ways. The victim, haunted by the guilt of not being able to help her family burn up in a car crash, gets aided by a romantically tormented priest while bodies pile up around them. You have to be careful what you wish for, cause our djinn takes things quite literally most of the time. There's not much to say about this second Wishmaster movie. It's a continuation of the first one, and it does it a little less good than the previous. It's still an enjoyable and entertaining classic horror movie with a great antagonist. Check that. Wishmaster 3, Beyond the Gates of Hell is a sad excuse of a movie and a lousy sequel to a franchise that could have been as big as the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Unfortunately, Chris Angel doesn't seem to know that jump scares are lame and that movies need a good main actor to be the villain. Yes, you heard it. Andrew Divoff is out as the Wishmaster and is replaced by some other guy that has the charisma of a dead raccoon. He plays a PV college teacher trying to get into the pants of our main character, played by A.J. Cook, before being killed and turned into a worse-looking djinn. They gave him a blue hue this time for some strange reason, maybe to create some kind of failed joke by linking it to Disney's Ginny. Who knows? It sucks. On top of that, it has stupid 90s music that's being used when people are running. It's quite annoying. Similarly annoying to the acting and, like stated previously, the multiple from the back jump scares. Wishmaster wasn't about jump scares. It was about creative deaths and how gory they could be. about tongue-in-cheek humor and charming personalities. This movie has neither and weaves in a lame love story with all the crap I previously mentioned. It suffices to say that you can skip this movie, but if you know that this film was filmed back-to-back in 16 days with the Wishmaster 4-1, would you have to drop the 4th installment of this series too? Find out in our next recommendation. As for Wishmaster 3, drop it like a turd. Drop it like a turd. Drop that. After the debacle that was Wishmaster 3, I was hesitant going into the 4th one, especially because I knew this had the same director and was filmed back-to-back in 16 days with a weekend in between the two. On top of that, Arjun Andrew Divoff wrote a sequel himself that sounded quite interesting but was told by corporate execs that his idea was too difficult to do. Upon reading the script of the new movies, he decided to quit. Wishmaster 4 drops the lame actor from the previous movie and brings the same blue-hued djinn back in the form of Stephen Verdell, played by Michael Trucco, who is a lawyer trying to help his crush win a court case for her boyfriend who suffered an injury on his faulty bike and lost the ability to use his legs. Trucco plays the djinn better than the previous one but doesn't get to the heights of Divoff in his portrayal. There's still a love triangle going on which is quite the bore, but it's done better than the previous movie. Truly annoying was the endless whining of the paralyzed guy, especially after a certain thing happens and he is just revealed to be a whiny little bitch. This time they turn the whole wish-making thing on its head a little bit, which is a refreshing change from the previous movies. Due to this, there are a little less wishes, and the ones that are granted are a little bit more lame than the first two movies. Still, it's a far cry better than the Wishmaster 3. I watched these films one after the other, so maybe I was pleasantly surprised to see something okay after watching 3, but still, Wishmaster 4 has its moments and still succeeds in entertaining the viewer, and that's all we want. Check that. 8.5 is a black and white Italian movie by Federico Fellini about a popular film director, played by Marcel Mastroianni, who after having his last success is trying to get inspiration for a new movie, but he keeps getting badgered by his entourage and hits a creative block, wrestling with his predicament and the people bothering him constantly. He escapes into a world of fantasy and memory, thinking of the women from his past while dealing with the women from his reality and creating lavish fantasies about the same women. The movie, in its avant-garde style, feels very dreamlike. From the beautiful sceneries and buildings in Italy and Paris to the weird setups when he is dreaming or fantasizing. The first scene in particular, when he is in a traffic jam, is quite compelling, but later scenes are equally great. Not to mention the beautiful women he has to deal with, women who all have nasty sides that instantly turned me off, until they got friendly again. 8.5 is a very special movie with a lot of conversations. It's not the type of movie you'll have to pay attention to or you'll get lost in fantasy, memory or reality. The message behind the movie for me was about a man who is stuck with himself and his life, who escapes into fantasy and melancholy and eventually accepts each part, including the people in his life, both how they were back then as well as how they are now. As is. With this he can accept himself and his ever-changing being and not worry about the next big thing. The movie is about acceptance. Acceptance of reality. Acceptance of one's past and acceptance of yourself and those around you. Acceptance that fantasy has its place but isn't real, and with that those joyous momentous moments can be achieved now and then to make this life, which is a circus in many ways, entertaining rather than a tragedy with sad clowns. Smash that. Amarcord is yet another Federico Fellini movie that is vaguely centered around a boy in a quaint but cozy Italian town. It starts at the beginning of spring and shows us many of the eccentric and unique people that live in the town, from the friends at school, to the teachers, parents, neighbors and others. It deals with sex, friendship, happiness, loss and all other kinds of emotions a person has in his or her lifetime. The scenery and scenes in the movie are delightfully colorful and happy, offering you an old-school glimpse of what life was before the beginning of World War II. And more so, it reflects our journey from boy or girl to man or woman. Amarcord is in spots funny, in spots satirical but also critical, especially in the scenes where Mussolini's fascists come to visit the town. There's plenty of sexy time in there as well, though very clean and romanticized for the most part. It's hilarious to see the townsfolk visiting a statue of the fallen soldier only to realize that they're on the backside of the statue, looking at the extremely well-shaped ass of the angel. Big round butts galore in the Italian town, which seems to be a thing, and as well a couple of encounters with big-breasted dames. Amarcord is one of those movies that shows us a simpler time, where there weren't that many rules or ethical questions about what is allowed or not, where boys could still do mischief without being thrown in jail, and where men and women lived with certain respects and values. I thoroughly enjoyed Amarcord, much like other, slightly older movies, from the 50s and 60s. Good wholesome stuff with a couple of fat asses and big titties thrown in cause it's fucking Italy. I'm looking at you, Ray Uno. Smash that. Roma is a Federico Fellini movie from 1972 about the ancient city of Rome, the place he was apparently very fond of. I visited Rome a couple of years ago, and though a nice city it has become, much like Paris, a tourist trap. I'll never forget the annoyance of sitting at the Trevi fountain and being harassed every 40 seconds, I counted, by some nitwit who asked us if they could take a picture. Roma delves into this in a way, showing us many aspects and parts of Rome and how it was versus how it is. It's a loose amalgamation of scenes from the highway around it to the bustling streets, the red light district, tourist spots and beyond. If you didn't know better, you might think Roma is a documentary of sorts depicting life in and around Rome, and maybe that's true, but certain scenes are clearly satirical in nature, especially the one with the Vatican catwalk. I didn't quite get into the movie Roma as much as I thought I would, simply because it's so disjointed in places and doesn't have a plot. You go from one place to the other and experience the bustling city in all its glory and nastiness. Noisy, chaotic in places, quiet and solemn in others. It's like walking in Rome with a camera minus the pain in the legs and the motherfucking dickheads trying to strip every single dime from you. Just let me eat my ice cream in peace, you twat. Anywho, Roma won't be for everyone, but it's a Fellini movie, so it's a sight to be seen. Much like Rome, when there's not an asshole asking you shit. Check that. The Last American Virgin is one of those teen comedies where everyone is trying to get laid and one guy, our main character played by Steve Antin, can't seem to catch a break. He works at a pizza delivery place and one day falls in love with the new arrival in town, the pretty Karen, played by Diane Franklin. His two friends want to get their groove on though and end up in numerous humorous situations where they are trying to get some pussy. Whether or not they will be able to get some, I'll leave for you to discover, but you can rest assured that there are plenty of comedic moments in this film. The cliché copyright-s of the genre are rampant but don't annoy, and overall this is a very entertaining movie that has something for everyone. Except the people who are offended about everything, of course, but fuck them, right? There's one moment in the movie where they kinda lost me and did something to a certain character in such a callous way that it made me frown a bit, but if you stick with it you can see the intent of this, I think, and it all falls into place in quite a dark way if you think about it. The Last American Virgin isn't like the 40-year-old virgin, but it comes close. It feels more like an extension of Revenge of the Nerds but without any of the goofball stuff, and it has one very surprising ending you should definitely see. Smash that. Casanova, the world-renowned ladies' man, is played by a very eccentric Donald Sutherland who, by the order of Fellini, shaved his hair so he would have a humongous forehead. We follow Casanova during his later years as he deals with one woman after the other and falls madly in love with them on sight, love being his lust which rises to the occasion, after which he beds the woman, often accompanied by a mechanical rooster, or cock if you wish, that gyrates and flutters like a madman for a couple of minutes to indicate his arousal. You might think upon hearing this that this is a sex movie, and though technically true you will not see sexual acts or even that much nudity, buttocks are shown sparsely. There's maybe 2 pair of boobies in the whole movie, and Donald Sutherland and his conquests always have sex with all clothes on. Their dance of passion primarily being a choreographed bunch of movements. The rest of the movie are mostly separate stories as Casanova, like a true Baron von Munchausen, goes from country to country and lies and cheats his way into the high and low societies in order to get what he came for, every time falling madly in lust for whatever woman catches his eye in that area. It's a tragic story about a man who is unable to love and only loves with his cock, until, at old age, that mechanical cock lies broken and shattered on the table, unable to work, and he reminisces about some of his conquests, including one very particular one late in the movie. It portrays very nicely how at first a life of conquest and adventure is interesting and something to aspire to, though later in life all you have is your fading memories and nothing else. Scorn and laughter that follows you through the dark hallways of old life. Il Casanova is yet another interesting and colorful Fellini movie that I can recommend very much. People who loved the Terry Gilliam Baron von Munchausen movie should definitely check this one out, though Casanova's stories are of course not as fantastical as Munchausen. Smash that.